Hey everybody, it's Party Elite, and today we're taking a look at the latest DLC that's coming out of Total War Warhammer 2, the Warden and the Paunch. Before I dive in, I just want to mention that I received a review key from the folks over at Creative Assembly, but as always, that does nothing to influence the review. I'll also mention that, if you're interested in picking the DLC up, doing so at the link provided in the description down below and under the eye at the top right corner of the screen is a way to do so while supporting the channel, as well as charity. Now, with no time to waste, let's dive on in. Is the Warden and the Paunch as tasty as Troll Tartar, or does it need a little more zest? The new DLC comes with a much-anticipated old world rework. The Greenskins have had their WoW mechanic built from scratch in battle and in campaign. There's the ability to upgrade your units using scrap, etc., etc. The DLC is also releasing alongside a piece of free content in Lord Imric for the High Elves and a new unit for the Greenskins as well. Now, please keep in mind that these aspects are not being considered for the review. I'm only reviewing what you'd be paying for so you can make an informed purchasing decision. The Warden and the Paunch pits the High Elves of Yvresse, led by Eltharion the Grim, Warden of Tor Yvresse, against the Greenskins of the Broken Axe tribe, led by Grom the Paunch, a goblin of great immensity who has previously in Warhammer lore raided and sacked the High Elf homeland. While Grom is looking to finish the job with his objectives in the Vortex and Mortal Empires campaigns, Eltharion is looking to prevent his success and even take the fight to the Greenskins to wipe them out once and for all. The Warden of Tor Yvresse has many aspects that lend themselves towards a defensive campaign, waiting and preparing for 150 turns until Grom attacks, though there are objectives that put you on the offensive as well, pushing against the Greenskins on both the old world and new, and you can pressure Grom into an early assault if you'd like as well. Accomplishing these alternative tasks helps you financially, increases unit capacity for the special Mistwalker units, and helps generate Warden supply, a resource that you can also gain through completing regular missions and raising settlements. The Warden's supply resource is used to upgrade Athel Tamarah, and those upgrades help in a variety of ways. On one side, allowing for the recruitment of Mistwalkers and their improvement, while the other side is more focused on campaign map level benefits. Upgrades from either side increase Ladriel's blessings, which in turn is a resource you're trying to earn to increase the Yvresse defense levels, with each of the 3 levels improving the tools at your disposal. Ladriel's blessings are also increased by upgrading Tor Yvresse itself, and the higher tiers of Tor Yvresse unlock the unique Mistwalker units that can also be used in custom battles. Finally, Eltharion can take prisoners in battle by using the Warden's Cage ability on an enemy lord or hero while in battle, and wounding them while the effect is active. It can only be used once, so it and all of its benefits need to be weighed against the value of obtaining a prisoner, and you need to time it right. You can only have a maximum of 2 prisoners at a time, and that's only when you upgrade to build the second slot, and holding a prisoner gives you benefits against the faction the prisoner belongs to. You can choose to indoctrinate, execute, or interrogate prisoners, with a third option only available after building the interrogation chamber upgrade, and it gives you an ability associated with a faction being interrogated. I found this to be a really fun way to integrate prisoners and additional grim aspects of war. I really like the addition of another element that carries between battles and campaigns as well, and would love to see more of this in future. It's really nice to see race versus race specific benefits and buffs, whether again you have a prisoner that helps you against that specific faction, or it's the interrogation that gives you a special ability tied to that faction. I just think it's a very cool and intriguing way to integrate the huge variety that we already see in this Warhammer universe. Now, finally, on top of all of this, Eltharion also sees the addition of a new rite in the Invocation of Ladriel to help anywhere the Mists of Yvresse are present, and to increase the chance of successful ambushes being pulled off, while further giving a special army ability unique to Eltharion's faction as well. Eltharion's start position is pretty good. It puts him against the Vampire Coast, Greenskin factions, and the option to either push against Norskins or make his way towards the New World or Old for a decent variety of enemy choices, pretty densely packed right from the start. Now, the new High Elf units add a bit more mobility with a new Chariot type and a War Beast in the War Lions of Thrace, with the latter bringing a Regiment of Renown variant as well. There are new Phoenixes in the Arcane Phoenix and its Regiment of Renown, and the Silverin Guard provides some heavier, more capable spear units, while the Rangers are dual sword-wielding anti-infantry units with physical resistance and the ability to pass through trees, just walk right through them without needing to adjust their pathing. It looks really weird without any visual effects or animations to imply it's intentional, but it does make a difference in mobility, and it's an intriguing unit trait to see in action. Now, on top of all this, we also get an Archer's Light Armor Regiment of Renown, and the Mistwalker units I mentioned earlier are more than just quick reskins. They're units in their own right, but keep in mind, they're only available in the campaign. Grom the Paunch brings his own flavor into the mix. Being a hungry goblin known for his appetite, food plays a key role, and combining ingredients in his cauldron to prepare new dishes is a fun way to tailor faction-wide and Grom-specific buffs based on your current circumstances and needs. Ingredients are obtained either by performing certain actions or by purchasing them off the food merchant, and they can be combined by mixing and matching one ingredient from each category shown here. The actions vary. Sometimes you have to defeat certain factions or certain units in battle, and at other times you have to sack cities belonging to specific factions, but it had me sometimes chasing objectives I wouldn't typically chase without assigning me a mission. I was driven by my own curiosity and felt as though I had some agency. A really nice approach to an unlocking mechanism. I think it's very well done. Now, on with the cooking. While you can only mix 2 ingredients at a time at first, taking on cooking challenges from those very same hags I mentioned earlier allows you to unlock more cauldron slots by cooking specific types of dishes for the hag. The recipes are all mysteries at first and can only be learned by happening upon them, either by combining ingredients in the cauldron screen or by completing various missions that you get through the campaign. This furthers that earlier sense of mystery and curiosity. The ingredients individually will buff a variety of things, fitting thematically with the ingredient. Dragon's tail providing explosive ammunition for goblins, for example, or troll meat allowing your goblins to regenerate health. Now, these ingredient buffs stack, and then on top of that, there's the actual buff from the resulting dish itself, applying more benefits, though this time specifically to our corpulent cook. Herein lies the real meat of Grom's unique mechanic. The buffs are game changers. Goblins with regeneration are ridiculously resilient. Exploding ammo on goblin archers are devastating against infantry. Fire ammo on goblin archers, great against trees and mummies. Like, these aren't small tweaks to health or melee stats. These are entirely new attributes and traits being given to units alongside new abilities being given to Grom. They completely change the value of some very baseline units. When you cook a new dish, it replaces the existing one you've already previously cooked. So as the situation changes, you cook new things to adapt based on what you need. Now, those same hags that I was talking about earlier, they can cook you a new dish too, but again, that'll replace the effects of the current dish you have. So it's pretty interesting. Now, be wary though, cooking does cost scrap, and you have to use that scrap for a variety of other things that have come with that Greenskin rework. So you have to be picky about when you decide to cook something, when you decide to swap one buff out for another, and if it's worth it or if a new war is on the horizon, you really have to plan your approach there. I think it was pretty fun. I think it's a good way to make things interesting. Where, units that you've gotten used to by now, if you've been playing the game for so very long, those very same units now have this new dimension added to them, a new ingredient, if you will. Now, Grom's start position is a fun one too, especially in the Vortex campaign, where you have to deal with a good variety of enemy types right from the start. Dwarfs, Wood Elves, High Elves, Lizardmen, Tomb Kings, they're all densely packed in the area, with the Skaven just like a few steps away as well in both directions. There's a fun bit of challenge at the start of the campaign. It's not as tense as, say, the Marcus Wolfhart campaign, but something that I think newer players might sometimes find themselves challenged by if they push their luck a little too hard. Thankfully, Grom seems to have goblin solutions for goblin problems, with all sorts of nifty buffs to his goblins, from the standard redline stats to the more personalized buffs that increase anything from their anti-large capabilities to their melee attack and armor. The new Greenskin units bring lots of mobility with the pump wagons and their anti-infantry armor piercing, a very helpful unit across the board, not to mention the armor sundering in the Rollers variant, and the extra explosive assistance with the Regiment of Renown. Then we have the Stone and River Trolls, meaning you can have a variety of trolls in your army, with the latter having a Regiment of Renown variant, and the Rogue Idol, which has the very interesting mechanic of becoming more dangerous the more damage it takes, the rocks that make its body being chipped into sharper edges as battle goes on. Plus, it's a great model to look at in action, and it has a Regiment of Renown variant as well. Finally, the Giant River Hag Troll hero brings death magic to the field with some middling melee capabilities and a face only a mother could love. On the battlefield, it's worth mentioning that Grom has a specific type of Waw as well, helping him further stand out from the pack with some extra regenerative capabilities. And I do think the writing on the Greenskins especially deserves an extra nod. It's just absolutely hilarious and utterly disgusting at times. It kept me entertained, and while I typically skim over mission descriptions when I'm playing on my own, outside of one other faction, these ones were all worth a read multiple times. Even the introduction is just really well done, and I feel like writing doesn't often get highlighted in games, but it's so important in setting the tone, and I think it is spot on. The High Elves have good writing as well, but the Greenskins is just, the comedy hits all the right notes for me. Now, all this isn't to say that the DLC is perfect, of course. It does have some issues. The first one that comes to mind has to be the Stone Trolls, and how they look more or less exactly like the trolls that came before them. Feels a little short of the mark compared to some of the other fantastic things we've got going on. The Rangers literally walking through trees without any visual flair is a little hollow feeling as well, something that will rarely be noticed, sure, but when you do notice it, it just feels a little unfinished. Apart from that, I can't help but feel that the cooking mechanic, as fun as it is, could be pushed a little further. It's a great addition that I wish had more meat to it, I suppose. When I first saw the number of ingredients, I thought we'd be in for hundreds of combinations, and while the faction-wide effects can be combined in a plethora of ways, the dishes themselves felt rather limiting rather quickly. And while I like that you had tasks to accomplish to unlock ingredients, once again, I wish there was more variety. Perhaps it's because my expectations had been set too high by the concept, but this felt like a bit of a missed opportunity to further push an otherwise fun thematic mechanic. I feel torn. I love the idea. I guess that's just why I want more from it. For the first time in a few DLCs now, I felt that Creative Assembly has struck a balance between the two opposing factions, and that's a very important thing in my books, considering how one-sided the previous two DLCs felt. There was clearly one faction that was favored, and the other was kind of tacked on. Here, both sides of the coin receive a good bit of love, with Athel Tamarah mirroring Grom's Cauldron, and the Mistwalkers mirroring the unit-changing recipes. Arguably, even though Mistwalkers are uniquely named and visually represented, Grom's may be the one with a larger variety to choose from as a result of how wild some of the cooking results can be. I went to check the price of this DLC, and it's only $10, so again, we find ourselves in that situation where if you enjoy either of these factions, the DLC is totally worth picking up without hesitation. Even if you want to play as, say, the free Lord Imric first, because if you enjoy multiplayer, the new units add a good bit of flavor and fun with some great utility as described earlier as well. And then again, even if you're playing as the free Lord Imric, you're going to go ahead and get those extra units added to the High Elves as well, and they do add a bit of mechanical flavor. Keep in mind, though, that the Mistwalkers and Grom's Cauldron effects are not available in ranked battles. They're only for like campaign, and Mistwalkers are only in custom battles that you can use the campaign-specific units in. Now, I think it's really worth mentioning as well that this is the first time that I've personally been drawn towards doing a full High Elf campaign as well. I normally don't quite care for them in their ivory towers and their upturned noses, but with Athel Tamarah, I finally feel pretty compelled to play as a faction I didn't give a second thought to previously. So that's really something to consider as well. Even if you don't quite care for these two factions, the new mechanics and their tones are, in my humble opinion, very compelling and an excellent draw. I wish I had more issues to pick out, but outside the few minor visual issues I mentioned earlier, from a mechanics and value for money standpoint, this is a full-sized meal. I hope this video helps you make a call on the Warden and the Paunch DLC. If you decide to pick it up, I'm curious to know what draws you in and who you're going to be playing as first. Like I mentioned earlier as well, if you haven't picked it up yet, doing so at the Humble Bundle affiliate link in the description down below or under the eye at the top right corner of the screen will help out this channel as well as charity. As always, a massive thanks goes out to all of my channel members and patrons for supporting the channel on a monthly basis. You keep us alive and running smoothly. And a big thanks goes out to each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, cheers.